This is iSōma. I'm Amber.
And I'm Kurt.
iSōma is a community-rooted organisation, and our intention is to reorient ancient healing principles back into modern-day practice.
We explore, cultivate and cure that precious place within ourselves of deep listening, the art of deep listening, so we can move back into a deeper place of connection and intimacy with our own lives and intimacy as an artist here in the world in the way we choose to serve and offer our skills to our communities, to our families, to our workplaces, and what we're contributing is of greatest value.
Inherently, these conversations are around honesty. Honesty about the quality of the relationship we have with ourselves, we have with others, we have with nature, the unseen forces, the animate world, spirit all around us, and how we might live in our ordinary, everyday life, experientially applying with reverence, respect, ritual, discipline, these principles, and therefore being able to receive that depth in ourselves and repair what so deeply requires our attention.
Something that we both feel humanity is deeply thirsty for, to explore the mystery and to stop approaching life as a problem to be solved, but to unravel and look behind the veils and find those things that truly quench the human spirit. We are coming from the place of offering these teachings in an experiential way, not just an intellectual way. We're not here to talk to the mind, but it is conversations, heart-to-heart conversations. And in our practitioner path, it is truly rooted on the foundation of experiential understanding, through living it, through walking it, through being with it, and cultivating that patience of not rushing, we come to truly see.
Our core principles are relational integrity, somatic fluency, and elemental coherence. And that's what we weave and integrate into all that we do. But it's important to know that we're very much still human beings, and we're just as much walking this path alongside you as you will be with us. So these conversations are about everything that we spoke to. We often interview our guest teachers and facilitators that come in and teach during our year-long apprenticeship. And sometimes we have conversations about all of the topics that we teach to and everything in between, just between Kurt and I. It's an honour to receive you and have you give your time to this. And we're incredibly grateful and hope that you receive so much from it.
Gaya mamarangai jagun gunganono Gaya mamarangai jagun gunganono Gaya mamarangai jagun gunganono Garinine name Joje moberono Garinine name Joje moberono Arr Arr.
Thanks, brother.
Yeah. It's so alive.
Yeah.
Do you want to open there?
Yeah, thank you. Just like to start by acknowledging our traditional custodians of the land that we're meeting on, the Windjatjara people, and acknowledging their continuing connections to lands, winds and waters, especially noting the spirits of their ancestors, their songlines and their dreaming remains in those lands, winds and waters that we all now share. Also like to take some time to pay respects to elders past and present, for they hold the knowledge, the learnings and pass down the teachings throughout the generations to keep our culture strong. and not only survive but thrive through some of the harshest policy eras in the context of colonised Australia. It is definitely off the hard work, determination and commitment of our elders that allows me to be sitting here today having this bit of a yarn. So thank you.
Thank you, Uncle. So grateful for you to be here. You know, it's been half a decade or so now that we've known each other. And you've been such a light in my world of understanding, of being able to ask all of the questions that I think, am I allowed to ask this? I would love to know this. I would love to understand this. And I'm so grateful for you helping me, you know, with shit that I just don't know about, things that I'm ignorant about, and, you know, things that I want to understand. I feel like a child sometimes flopping around and like, where am I? How can we fix it? What are we doing? So really, really appreciate your patience and your care and your tenderness with me and all of the students that you've taught with us. And yeah, such an honour.
Thank you. Grateful. Yeah, it's always good, I guess for me as well, being asked those questions and you creating a safe space to have that yarn as well. There's a lot that I still unsure of, but yeah, having those yarns and being open really creates that space for that communication so we can continue learning.
And where are your people from?
So we're Yinwum, Anathanguyth people, through my grandfather. Traditional lands in central and western Cape York. It's born up in Cairns there and moved down to Brisbane and Ipswich when I was 12 and 13 and been around that area. So currently living down in Ipswich on Yagara Jagara and Yurapul people's country. Been fortunate enough to be accepted in there as an Aboriginal man in the community, and raised 7 children, 5 of my own and 2 bonus children when my wife married. So that's been home for the last 30 plus years.
Yeah, wow. And you're currently director still?
Yep. Acting director for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander Health at Westmoreland Health Service.
Yeah, beauty. Lots of fancy desk work.
Yes. Yeah, too much desk work.
Yeah, more than you like.
Yeah. More than any of us like. But yeah, really important stuff. Do you have anything to throw in before we dive in?
Just to give context, like we've had Uncle Maurice come and join us at some of our rites of passage work for men, you know, to welcome him in and his heart and all of his beauty. It's always been a pleasure. It's so nice for you to come with your stories, with your songs, with your spirit, man. It's always been a pleasure, and every time we get to connect, it's great. So it's so good to have you here today, and I'm sure our yarn is going to be lots of fun. And that's what it's about. It's bringing all those good pieces to the table, and you know, having conversations so we can come to greater understanding and we can explore things together where it's approachable, right? Because sometimes we're a little rigid and we're a little jarred. You know, just as Amber said before, I'm not sure who to ask or what not to ask. But it's really nice to be, you know, more liberated in that way. And I feel like you really welcome in that space and that energy to ask questions that we're curious about and to have conversations around things that, you know, that we're not sure what angle to come at it from, so we can navigate that together. So really looking forward to sharing you with the world as well in a greater capacity. So thanks for being here with us, bro.
Thank you. Yeah, that I guess that yarning style had a bit of a laugh to myself because I guess in the positions that I've been in, the people that I meet, they always come and say, I've got a question to ask. And we have a bit of a yarn and talk about that. And I guess after that, that yarn that we have, I feel I've given more questions. I haven't answered anything, but given, I guess, my opinions from that I've gathered over the years from lived experience. And but then, yeah, had a bit more questions. So I don't think it's ever any direct yes, no, this is right, do this, do it this way. And especially from a Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander context, because it's just so vast and so wide, the culture. Might just mention that Gurrin the Nami song.
I was about to say, can you? Yeah, thank you.
It's a song from the Waka Waka people. It was taught to me as a teenager when I moved out to Ipswich by Uncle Eddie Rusker and Shannon Rusker. When I was a teenager and a little bit lost, and coming back and learning song and dance, and use that a lot of Aboriginal dance troupes have used that as a welcome song in the southeast Queensland.
What does it say? Does it? I know the translation is
Yeah, not too sure of the translation because I'm not from the Waka Waka people, but my understanding is it's meaning to come to be together in this place, to sit and have a yarn. So that's why it's used for that welcome song.
Thank you.
And I think that gives us a great segue in, right? And I know there's so many people listening and out in the world that are looking to find their way, right? Either in that stage of their life, or maybe they have teenagers that are struggling to find connection, to find themselves, and are walking more that path of self-destruction and creating a bit of disharmony, in community, rather than something of they're contributing that's of goodness there, and that becomes a part of so many of our lives, and sometimes it's a really vital part too, is to kind of walk the wrong way for a little while, to get a little lost, right? I feel like at in all of our lives we cross that comes across somewhere, right? That crossroads. And as you said then, to come and have the uncles and the aunties bring forth these songs, how was that? How did that help you come back to what it is that you maybe was underlying that you were looking for, that you weren't kind of being met with? How did song and how did community and how did all of that help you in that lost period of time?
Yeah, I think it helped in a sense of I saw a different way of being, saw a different way of doing. When you when I was sort of stuck in the cycle of the drinking, drugging, violence, and crime, thought that was the only way to be. So being exposed to different ways of being, and seeing strong Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people doing different things, started that journey. For me, it was I guess a blessing and a bit of a hardship in that at the time wasn't sure where I was from and where my people were from, through moving away from family. So it was, yes, proud to be singing these songs and doing these dances for lots of crowds, from schools to tourist groups and conventions. But then there was also a little bit of shame as well, because I wasn't sure where I was from and haven't stood on that country. And yes, I'm doing these songs and dances, but they're not mine. But so it did help in that when I did the songs and dances and just the sense of pride it builds up, and that energy and that fire from within is there and builds, it helps to get help me to get through some of that shame, in that everyone's looking at me, but yeah, they look at me because I'm doing something really good and really positive. So yeah, that was I guess the start in that journey. It was around that same time I started practicing art as well, around those early teenage years, and that's something that I've stuck with. So over 30 years of practice, and I think I'm getting pretty good at it at the moment.
I can vouch. I have paintings.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a really strong sense of pride, but then it's also that sense of community, but having to go back to my community, to my country. Well, that was the thought at the time, and I guess having to think about today that the journey that I've been on was a lot of different phases, I guess, which brought me to now where I'm more open to other ways of being and other ways of doing, because at certain parts of my life, I always thought that this was right, or this was all that was out for me, or out there for me, or this is all I was worth. and knowing that, yes, it was right for me at that time because of the life that I was living and the situation I was in, for me, really realized that, whatever's right for me right now is not the only way. And for me, being more open to listening, understanding, accepting other ways of being, really opened up and opened up my life, and just more experience and opened up that experience, rather than thinking that this is all it is and this is all it's going to be. So I guess that started the journey of looking at and educating, and researching, and what brought me to Amber and yourself, through that path, because it was always a path of, I want something different, but right now this is all that I can see. So just opening, expanding that vision and that horizon and information.
So good.
What was just coming through for me as you were talking is imagining that this may land on the ears of any First Nations brothers or sisters who are feeling lost or are feeling in that cycle of like drugs and abuse, violence, and drinking. And you've shared your story with me so generously, and a couple of the core groups that we've worked with. And I just wonder if you'd be open to speaking to how you got there, and honestly, as a First Nations Aboriginal man on colonised soil, and what was going on inside your head and your heart. And yeah, I know that you said that song and dance and the community supported you, but really how? Like, could you give a little bit more detail about that journey through, just in case some ears are listening that it might really help?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for myself is taking ownership. I think I took ownership of my situations quite early. So at 17, I found myself in prison. And some of the boys there would talk about being in that situation because of your past experiences, because of parenting or lack of parenting.
When you say boys, are they
So we're in the boys' yard.
white
so,
fella or
yeah, mixed.
mixed?
So at 17 at the time, you weren't a juvenile under Queensland law, but so you were under the adults in the justice system. So at 17, when you got sentenced to prison, they had one unit at the jail for everyone that was 17, so not 18 to go into the prisons and too old to go to the detention centres. So it was a mix of all nationalities in there. But yeah, looking back on that, a lot of the stories was, it was I'm here because of, and just talking about a lot of outside experiences. But for me, the story that I would tell myself and tell others is that I was in that situation because I chose to be under the influence. I chose to go out and drink, knowing the possibility of all the negative stuff that could happen. But it was still right back to that decision in the morning. It's that, yes, this is what I'm going to do. Knowing that the outcome usually was negative. For me, that then gave me the strength to make that change. So then I wanted something different, and because even though they're same situations, a lot of them young fellas were in, but I take the ownership of decisions that I make personally. So I chose to get into that vehicle that didn't belong to us. Chose to start drinking. Chose to use that substance. So if I want something different, I just choose different. So that for me, I think, was the biggest thing.
And did you that was it? You just had that perspective, or because I find that it's pretty rare.
Yeah.
I'm just going to take responsibility.
Yeah. I'm not too sure. I think that was just there sort of subconsciously during that time, just thinking back on that time at that 17, 18 years old, is that I took I'm here because of my actions and I chose those actions. And rather than looking at the situation I was in, the place I was living, the people I was hanging around with, that external stuff, that helped me in that stage. Because then soon after at 19, had my first son, and wanted something different for him. So I wanted something
They do
different for
that.
him. So I knew I had to choose different. But as I mentioned before, all those different phases. So in that early phase, what was right for me and what I saw at that teenage years was like thinking that either be in debt or in jail for a long time by the age of 25, 30. So there's no real future forecast or future, I won't say hope, but future planning. Why plan for the future if I'm not only going to be here for a short period of time? So I wanted something different when I had my first child. Made those different changes, but then I was still in a mindset of, yes, I've made those changes and moved away from that sort of lifestyle, but there's still nothing out there for me. So I was still in the mindset of getting a job. I could only get entry-level jobs because I wasn't worthy of anything more.
You thought that? Or do you feel that's an imprint you took on as well as something that,
A bit of both. Like I say, if I'm going to take ownership of my actions, that was the thought process I was going through. So yes, a bit of an imprint on, because even going through those teenage years, the statistics for Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people and young men particularly was very limited. And that's
do you know it?
all that was. Was that?
Do you remember it, the statistic?
No. So like all the health statistics, live less, not going to graduate school, not going to. So all those are negative.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying this is holistic for what happened to Torres Strait Islander people. Is what I was going through and what I saw, and I guess the interpretation I took from that information.
Yeah.
So wasn't going to be around. So why plan for the future? I want something different, but I'm not worthy. So those sort of changes, and it wasn't until I sort of started stepping outside my comfort zone and took some opportunities to get a better job, get a better education, those sort of things, to and just start doing the doing. Even myself, like today, there's still a lot of doubts because I haven't gone, I guess, a traditional corporate pathways into finish schools, get a degree, start at did start at the bottom, but a little bit different. So those thoughts are always there, whether they're imprinted, whether they get told all the time, like when I was in high school, I was told that I need to go back to where I come from. I didn't belong in high school by a teacher. So those are the external, I guess.
Because you're an Aboriginal.
Yeah. Those external noises that I took on, and I guess those external noises are still there. It's just that I choose to see them different, and I choose to react differently. So that was the biggest lesson for me, was to take ownership for my actions, because the situation could happen right now. Touch wood, roof could fall from the place we're in here, and so it's what are the decisions, what are the actions that I'm going to do that will determine that outcome. As a really basic example.
Yeah.
Sometimes, and that was quite difficult in that, because being an Aboriginal boy, and the groups and the families and the community I was living in, want to make a change, then the people that I was living with and running with would say, "Oh, you're changing. You've changed.
Who were also
you're
Aboriginal.
Yeah, so you're acting white now. Why are you acting white? Because you don't want to go out and do these sort of things." And so it is a real struggle, for those that do choose or want something different, and it can be quite difficult to get out of that situation because that's all you see. And it's maybe the crab in the bucket, or just that that is external noises that and I still get it sometimes now. As you've changed, you're acting white now because you don't go out drinking or whatever it is. So people see that change in ourselves, but it's also the language that we use. For myself, where in that I wasn't worthy, so anything a car that was not working really well and the doors weren't working, the narrative we were telling ourselves, I was telling myself, is that oh, that's real black, that car. And it wasn't until later in my life where it's like, no, that's not, because that narrative that I was telling myself and hearing from others was that I'm not worthy of anything more. Because to be black, for me there was almost a ceiling on what you could achieve. So if you're going through that type of thing, and I think I did it a lot alone, on my own, and that might be the journey that I needed to go on to be able to help others and have those yarns, so that they have to wait 30, 40 years to really start excelling in that. And I guess that's the message that I've tried to continue to say to my kids. Yes, I'm doing all right, and a couple of people, young people, have said, "Oh, you're doing really well now because you've got a good job." Yeah, that's good. But if I had a really good job at 20, I'd be going on overseas holidays, and then buying the second or third car or second or third house rather than saving up for a house right now at 46. So if we can, shorten that time period for people just to really see that there is other opportunities out there. It wasn't until I started working in health, I think it was around 2008, 2009, where I started being exposed to Aboriginal doctors and Aboriginal psychologists and psychiatrists and counsellors, and it's like, oh wow, this is something different. So there are those opportunities, but even then it was like, oh yes, they had those opportunities, but that's past for me because I'm 30 years now and can't go back to university, but it's never too late to start. I actually studying business. I think I start next week. So doing that sort of stuff.
So that we can map out that program.
Yes, all the different programs, and again, it's that self-doubt in that there's different things that I've done in my life, like the making didgeridoos. Artwork was something that always relaxed me. So almost that meditation process where I start artwork and I love what I'm doing, and then my back starts hurting, and then I look at the clock and realize I've been sitting there for 4 hours. I start getting hungry and realize that it's way past dinner time. And having those programs, so the didgeridoo, when I started making the didgeridoos, it was that whole process and practice, where had a view or vision or a perception of meditation, and sitting in the lotus position, very still for hours. That was meditation, and I couldn't get that straight away. But learning more about meditation and what it can be, I've been doing it for a long time. In the artwork, in the didgeridoo, and I really love making the didgeridoo because you're focusing on that, and you have to slow down, because if you go too fast, you're going to muck it up. You got to start all over again. So really linking that back into those sort of practices. So it's not something that is separate to culture, but it's something that I've learned is entwined, and it's just a different language or a different terminology of the same processes that we've been going through for over 65,000 years, or as I like to believe, since the beginning of time. So finding things that really suit me, and was gave some time to being able to do that, and culture, from like I said, from that inside. So it starts from that inside and goes out.
Yes, and I love that. As soon as you were talking about your art, I was like, it's meditation, right? And it's as you were saying at the beginning, it's about opening our eyes to a different way of being, and sometimes it's right there. It can be crafting a piece of wood, right? It can be working with any material in any way. And as soon as we're in that creative energy, it can offer us like not only a taste, but contact with a different way of being, you know. And sometimes the greatest clarity comes to us. I know it's come to me, and I'm sure you too, in those moments where we're just so absorbed in what we're doing, whether it's crafting a didgeridoo or playing music, or in my art's always been meditation, not getting lost in it, but just allowing myself to be absorbed in that moment so deeply and influenced by that moment so deeply can help like clear the dross. It clears away the cobwebs and the stickiness that entangles us with other ways of being or other ways of operation in our ordinary happenings of life. That can be really distracting, really disorientating. It pulls us this way, that way. We're trying to, as you said, I'm trying to be the man that I've always been for my friendship groups, because then if I'm different, they'll think less of me. Or I don't want to be, there's something in us that intrinsically doesn't want to be rejected from that. So when we have to take that courageous leap, and I hear that in your story, there's courage is needed, like a really deep courage to be like, you know what, I'm finding a different way of being, and I'm okay to not be the man I once was for you. And I don't need to be coaxed back into that and do things the way you think I should or I have in the past to be accepted and appreciated, right? I can have enough courage and enough humility to be like, hey, these are the adjustments I'm making in my life, and I'm choosing to turn up as a different man in the world and do things differently. And it's okay that you want me to come back and play with you, but I don't have to. I have that choice and that liberating freedom and power to say, yeah, we can still be friends, but I don't want to dance in that way anymore. I don't want to go mess shit up anymore. I don't want to be destructive anymore. I want to actually contribute in a more positive way. And that can sometimes, I've seen across the board, having worked with, you know, human beings for a long time, sometimes the greatest in is a creative art of some kind, because it comes naturally. Like we all have our own creative expression. And when we start to harness that and come into relationship with that, it gives us this almost a bubble. We can just be in that and be solely with that. And it starts to nourish a part of ourselves that hasn't been nourished, starts to tend to and almost give us comfort of like, wow, this could be my field of genius, right? And a creative art, an artist is an artist because their creative expression is so unique unto themselves.
It's authentic.
They can't fail at that. You're not trying to imitate. Art isn't an imitation of anything else. It's just you expressing your authenticity in your own unique way. And when you start to hone that in and sharpen that and work with that and trust in that, there's something, like, I always feel like it feeds the spirit. It feeds that part of ourselves that isn't nourished by anything else. It brings us back to presence. It brings us back to ourselves. It gives us permission to express freely in an uninhibited way. It brings connection. It brings clarity. It brings so much medicine, that one pursuit, you know? So yes to all of that. Yes to all of that. And I know there's so many people that sit on the fence, right? I've met also so many people that are like, yeah, I'm creative, but I'm not very good at it. I'm like, well, how long have you sat with that? Like, have you really invested have you gifted time and energy to it? Oh, but mine's not as good as so-and-so. It's not about that. This isn't a game of comparing. Your unique genius is in how you express yourself and what you bring, whether that's through movement, whether that's through a palette of paint, whether that's through crafting and shaping something, whether that's through making something, whether that's through poetic word. Maybe you're inspired to share word, to speak, to lead in that way, like an infinite spectrum of potentiality. But it is such a potent and powerful medicine to pursue creativity. Right? yes.
An
to
infinite
creativity.
potential in creativity.
That's freedom.
I was come up with a little terminology when I was making the dig and feeling so centered and relaxed, and whether it is making a dig, whether it is, like I said, artwork, writing a script, writing music, when you're doing those sort of activities, you're being creative, and you're creating, which brings you closer to the creator, and whether you create or whatever name that goes by, God, universe, spirit. That's what I got from that, and then sort of what comes through. So you're making something from nothing. When you mentioned there, I've worked with some students and do some artwork with some students through the RAF out at Amberley, and I would always ask, who does artwork, and then a few people put their hand up and say, oh, yeah, what mediums they talk about that, and who doesn't, who can't. I can't paint, I can't draw, can't even draw a stick man. And so it's like, well, if you grab a pen and put it to a bit of paper, and start moving that pen around, what are you doing? You're drawing, you're creating something that wasn't there before. So you can draw, but it might be a Picasso or Da Vinci or a Woodley bit of artwork, because it doesn't have to be. I think society can be stuck in that comparative. So it doesn't have to be comparative. When I've had a look through art and the art world and some of the art that has been sold for millions, just have a look at that, and have a look at the pieces of artwork that have been sold for millions. I look at and think different. I probably wouldn't pay that much for it. So it's the interpretation, it's the story, it's the connection to that, to whatever you are creating. And then if someone else has that same perception, and when you look at the art, I haven't studied art history, but when you look at some of the earlier works, which were really, I guess, portrait and realistic, and then those artists went to cubisms and then different abstract.
Really abstract.
So art is definitely an interpretation of a story that you're creating from nothing.
It's one of my favourite things that I've revisited as a mum is art, which it ends up just my 3-year-old trying to paint over whatever I'm attempting to paint. But it's given me an opportunity to just get out a brush and do strokes and see what happens. I got a C in art in high school. I was used to, prior to that, it was my first year in high school, and I'd never seen a C before at that point. I was like, okay, all right, there's a different way to this. I can't use my intellect for this. What do you mean? Something that was coming up while both of you were sharing is so many different actually threads of this. I was thinking threads of the yarn.
Yeah.
One of them, I wanted to just speak out and honour Mitch Firth, who I went to high school with, and he is now, what's his
Tambo.
Yeah, Mitch Tambo. He presents as Tambo, and so because I knew him as Firthy in high school, and he's a First Nations Aboriginal man, and his art is so unique in the sense that he mixes in his like wild disco, retro, fluorescent, shining outfits, and he has his emu feather on his head, and his face is painted. Not only is he an exceptional singer, which I didn't know at high school. He was pretty Tambo. He was Faithy was pretty quiet. He is translating more famous Australian songs to Aboriginal language and just belting them with all of his heart and soul, and he is fucking copping it at the same time. He's copping it. I'd never even, it blew my mind. If you've never seen Mitch Tambo, go and have a look. His art is incredible. It is art. It's so unique. It's so authentic. And what he faces and the way that he deals with it is absolutely hilarious and reminds me of like the young man that I knew in high school. Whereas people will comment that he's not Aboriginal. They'll say 1%. They'd put comments of 1%. I remember being like, what do they mean? And then I saw him pouring milk into a coffee one day and saying, what did he say? He's like, still coffee.
Yeah.
It just takes the absolute piss. And I was like, the endurance that we often, my point is like we have to face so many gates of different rejections and challenges to be with our authentic art, whatever that is. And I think that that's a really normal journey. If you look at all of the stories, the old stories, and a lot of the myths will always have 3 gates or multiple gates of challenge where there's usually temptation, and then you usually like fall into that temptation. I know a few stories off the top of my head, actually only 2 that I can think of, where they tell you exactly what to do, but most of them take you through the journey of where you fail multiple times and you build up your reps through life. And I just think that was one of the stories that was coming to me that I wanted to weave into, this. And your art you often weave in colours that I haven't seen in Aboriginal artwork before. Like when we got ours, I was like, whoa, this green and blue is just so vibrant. And you have this vibrancy about the art that comes through you, that I just wonder if you've ever had a moment to pause and question that, even of like, am I to do this? Because, yeah. And, a lot of the questioning of being allowed to, and the other thread that, well, actually, no, finishing that sentence and knowing that that's part of what we face is an ownership of that and the courage that's required to own our art, whatever that looks like. And the other side of the coin of that is belonging. You were saying, there's something inside of us that wants to. Like, we are not only is our DNA and our wiring designed for us to bond and thrive through relating and to be in relationship. It's how we're designed in our system, and it's how we were in harmony it's how the ancients were in harmony, somewhere back there, we were there. They had this coherence with life because they belonged, and they understood they belonged, and there was a belonging with nature, there was a belonging with each other. One of the Quechua people of the Andes, their reference is not I, it's us. Imagine if we couldn't say the word I. We just had us. My friend Powell the other day, who founded Kintu, taught me that, and I'm like, I just sat there. I haven't stopped thinking. I'm just like, whoa. And so this belonging is so inside of us. And one of the things that I wanted to speak to today and bring up to ask you all the questions that I don't know who else to ask that I've asked you before, but I want to ask again for the sake of teaching and spreading that is, and guys, like, throw back at me, obviously, if you don't agree or see gaps, but I've been chewing on this for a couple of years, right? So the deep sense of belonging, and having been born in Australia and my recent ancestry being Irish and Scottish, that Irish ancestry was, a lot of them were enslaved, didn't want to come here, were put here as like slaves and criminals. Others were farmers, and they were some of the OG colonizers. I don't know if I can say OG colonizers. And then the Scottish line were, and the English lines were, the Scottish were recruited into the English army, and they were colonizers. So I was like, this is my ancestry and on this land. So where the fuck do I belong? Because I don't know. It's taken a lot of work, and I still don't have a heap of clarity looking for my ancestors. It's a lot easier than First Nations people because it wasn't as wiped out. But when I go far enough back, my lines, especially in the Irish, what they call people of the earth, in their references, in their writings, they were wiped out by the Romans. So that's where I can, and I had to go all the way back there and then went, fuck, the same cycle. And then just kept looking around the world and going, oh, same thing again and again and again and again and again and again and again. And started linking that to a lot, but in particular for what we're doing here in iSōma, the part of us that is inspired to want to be something more. Sometimes that comes from a deep, dark, wounded place. Sometimes that comes from a beautiful soul place, and I think there's always a little bit of both. For me personally, it definitely is. And this exposure because of the internet to all of these different modalities and these different ways, particularly Indigenous ways. And very much so in the West, we've had a lot of the plant medicine come through, or the Indian American wisdoms and the technologies from the South Americas and the Andes and the Aztecs and Egypt and all of that come through here. And Africa, so like a lot. Tibet, Asia, and Australia, particularly as I've read the histories over the last 5 years more, has been the more intensive time I've self-studied with it and studied with other Indigenous people. We're so insular, nuclear, hyper-individuated and kind of cut off from the world. In a way, Australians think we're so far away from stuff. We're like, where all that exists. We forget sometimes. We're like locked in this island. And we scoop up all of these different really beautiful technologies and modalities and then make money off them and make them something. And I don't believe, from what I've seen and asked lots of questions and tried to understand, that most people don't even realize they're doing it. We don't. I did not. I had no idea. I remember being like, what do I do now? I'm realizing, and trying to reverse and trying to repair and trying to like, what can I do then? Fuck, nothing really. Well, I'll start learning my Indigenous, my ancient language, and then see where I go from there, So this sense of belonging encourages or amplifies, exacerbates, is a catalyst for colonial mindset and appropriation and dilution of Indigenous wisdom that gets chopped up, bought and sold and loses its depth. And I think that's a conversation that we should have. Did I come all the way back? Sometimes I go on a circle and a journey and then I go down a rabbit hole and come back through.
I always think of, like I said earlier, might need a part 2 and part 3
I
and
know.
part 4. Because, from what you just said with Brother Mitch and some of the stuff that we go through and what I take from that is the reaction that I get from someone that's from their perceptions of what I should be.
Yeah.
As an Aboriginal man, as a father, as a acting director, whatever it is that they have in their mind and their image of that position, and if I'm not acting within that way, then it's so for me that's a more perception of them, and I love to have those sort of yarns with people. Do really quickly realise if the person I'm talking to is cut off, and they just want to continue arguing the point. But that's and again, how do I react to that right now? 20 years ago, I reacted a lot different. Right now, I want to talk to you. I want to have a yarn with you.
What I want to say there, instead of a reaction, now you're responding, right?
Yeah.
Whereas, like, this is a really good thing. Just link in, and I didn't want to interrupt you, but I think that's a really good thing to be aware of for everyone, is that sometimes when we're unaware, we're reactive. Then as we've matured, not even just time, just awareness, matured in awareness, you're now responding and being like, hey, let's chat this out. Like, I can see either I'm offended by something or you're offended. Like, let's... because you're just throwing things at me. We're not getting anywhere.
Yeah.
Right? I'm happy to walk away from this. That's definitely a responding. I just wanted to...
Definitely, yeah. Love that one. Thank you for that one. I'll use that more. And always learning. And with the responding as well, when you take it back to Aboriginal culture, we sit and have a yarn. So sitting and having a yarn is sitting down, one person's talking, and if I'm talking, I talk from me, from what it means for me. I can't talk about what it means to us, because right now we're three different people and have those different lived experiences. So talk from me, and if I'm listening to understand rather than listen to react. Which then is that yarning, and you have for me, I get a deeper connection. So really understanding or have a better understanding of who you are and your position. So we can have either continue those yarns or say thank you, but we need to stop now. So it's the people's reactions is from their perceptions. Artwork, when I first started artwork, I was just using the earthy tones because again, my perception was that's what I had to use as an Aboriginal artist, and seeing that, and then I saw a lot of Aboriginal artists using brighter colours, and started doing that. I started using that, incorporating that. I actually have a red-green colourblind deficiency.
That's right.
And learnt that back in primary school. And again, that the mind thought process was there's colourblindness, so there's a lot of stuff that I can't do. I'd be an electrician or be a pilot, and even the artist. I think what I found is that can be a strength as well, in that where I've done a painting, and then I guess I'm seeing it the way that my lenses are interpreting into
Literally.
my brain. And then someone else comes along, wow, that's really vibrant, those colours really pop, and it's like, oh, do they?
Great.
So using those through your art class, I wanted to talk about that as well. You're graded on a perception of what it's supposed to be. So those gradings, I probably would have failed as well, because you're not supposed to use red and blue, because you don't use that in the artwork world. So that might be that popping. So what was some of those? So the other points. What I want to talk about is the belonging, and definitely understand that belonging and that sense of belonging.
Do you know what I didn't say?
No,
I
because you
think
didn't say it.
I don't know if I did. Maybe I did. This is what clarify for me. That appropriation is driven by wanting to belong. I think it's a catalyst. I think it's a driver of it unconsciously, where we want to belong. So we're grabbing something that looks, well, I know for me, if I look at Indigenous culture, there is this warmth and this wholeness and this, like, my system moves toward it. And because I want that, my colonized mind says, well, I want that, so I'm gonna do that, or I'm gonna be that, or and I believe that there's an unconscious way that we do that, won't admit it to ourselves, don't want to do that, so it stays really in the shadow. So it's this cycle that happens in the healing, the arts, the industry of the healing arts. Without it, it's like, I think it happens so much because of that. That's a perspective that I've got.
Yeah, for me, it's about learning those different modalities and how it connects with me. And then if it's something that's really great, I want to share that. And how I share that, there's different opinions on that. So if I share it for free, then those receiving it may put a little value on it, because of the perceived value of getting something for free. So I do that same thing and put a $100 price tag on it. So then those that are investing that $100, that value goes up. You do the exact same course, program, speech, and put it out. So it's that can be that from the receiving end, the value of that. And those learnings, I guess that appropriation is more about what are you doing with that. So to hear of different manifestation techniques and building wealth. Are you building wealth to keep it in the safe in your house away from everyone? Are you building wealth so that you can add more
into community?
So there's different opinions.
And maybe that's something to speak to, because I think that's if we can go like into that thread of the yarn or pull it, something that, and we were discussing this like across the board in so far the Indigenous cultures that I've learnt from, been a receiver of, or had a teacher of, or just read about, there's some very basic principles that match across the board, across the world. And one of them is that you mentioned, that what we do is in consideration of, will it benefit all? And that's a huge one. And that's not doing that just makes, it just keeps disadvantaged more disadvantaged, and the privileged more privileged, and there is no chance of repair. So it's really a lens that maybe a lot of people aren't even realizing they're doing. But if we're wanting to, so right now I'm speaking to those who are in the industry of the healing arts, who have any influence of an Indigenous modality, which is really all of them. They're just like different offshoots of them, everything. Modified, matured, and sometimes really made into a new authentic thing, but they really rooted in the same technology. Of the way that we're practicing, it's a question of like, are we doing it because it benefits me? Because I want to be able to extract as much as I can from this for my own self-gain, so I can be a success, which is, rampant in the West for us. And I know that's what I knew in the first 20 years of my life. That's besides playing team sport, I was like fighting for survival in my family life. So I was like, what can I do so I can survive? I was in the survival state too. So it wasn't until I was older that right, if we just live like this, we don't ever grow as a whole. So it's like part of the repair process is reorienting as how does everyone benefit from this? How do we give
from
back?
service to self to service to other? Reorientating from that space of it's about me, and my priority is centrally focused on upholding and continuously building this sense of self, right? But we're orientating around, I feel like we're orientating around on something that stands on really shaky ground.
Very shaky ground.
Again, if we look to all of the wisdom traditions of the world, there's always an indicator at that self importance needs to be destroyed. In order to be a we have to destroy the me. Right? If we look to meditation, if we look to the healing arts, if we look to these wisdom traditions, they're all about dismantling the me so we can be
Go
a we.
back into them.
Yeah. So we can return back to that space of how may I serve instead of what do I get from this. Instead, we are here.
What can I give?
What can I give instead of what can I gain?
What can I offer?
And again, this is another thing, like we're speaking about creativity and art, that feeds the spirit. I feel like we're very malnourished in the spirit, right? And I feel like that longing to belong, to connect, to feel safe, to feel even moments of serenity and rest, peace, like real peace. Contentment.
They speak about the contentment of the ancients.
Right. That won't ever, not even a fraction of that will come if the me is still here. But the moment it's about us and about we, all of a sudden the door opens to having a direct line of experiential understanding of the us and the togetherness of life, which weaves in. This is when, like, I feel like your paintings are a representation of that. It becomes this multi-dimensional piece of art that is, our lives can be that has depth and contrast, and it tells 1,000 stories. It's not just one monotonous grey colour, right? All of a sudden, the moment it's about us, and I have actively participated in dismantling the me, the I that keeps us divided, then I enter into the depth
I find my belonging.
Color saturation, right? The color saturation of belonging, of connection, of understanding
The rainbow serpent.
what I can contribute here, what I can gift here, that the earth is here, the water is here, the fire is here, the breath of life is here, all a part of me as an extension of me, and that life is here so I may enrichen my experience through returning to that remembrance that not only is art something that will bring us back to that connection, but art is a way of being. Right? And I wanted
As
to
in
add,
presence?
no, let me explain. I
Okay,
wanted
thank
to add this before. For those that are like, what's my art? Right? Art doesn't have to be something specific. I'll use myself as an example. As I started to tap into that creative flow, that creative expression, and permit myself to be courageous enough to express myself, right? Whether that was through music, whether that was through spoken word. I've spoken a lot over the last decade and a half to a lot of people. But I was a man who never spoke, right? But my art through entering into the field of meditation wasn't just in one field. I realized that my whole life was a piece of art, and that I was to turn up in a way that respected and had reverence to all of it. I could be an artist with the word I spoke, with the thoughts I chose to think, and with the actions I chose to take. Everything became art. The way I cleaned the dishes, the way I cooked food, to the way I was in relationship to other people. Right? Instead of creating fracture, I created repair. I was here as an artist to contribute beauty and harmony to everything, not just one field. Right? This is where we limit ourselves as artists. It's like, this is my art over here, and everything else I'm just going to be loosey-goosey with. No, I think the greatest art in life is here, everything. How can I turn up as a better man in the world? And that is by being an artist with my mind, to shape and to chisel my mind, to welcome in new depths and new expanses of silence so I can truly listen. And in that listening, I remember. And when I remember, I'm an artist with my words that I gift. I don't say what I don't mean. I mean what I say, yeah? And I say what I mean. I speak truthfully, honestly, respectfully. I'm aware of the words I choose to contribute to every environment, to every container, to every relationship. And the actions I choose to take, I'm not mindless in them. I'm mindful in them. I move as an artist in the world. So every life became art for me. Every facet, every nuance, every opportunity, every moment was a new opportunity to be an artist in the world, right? And it only makes sense if we're moving on that thread of, well, creativity and art gifts and fans the life of the spirit that brings us a fulfillment that nothing else can can fill, then if I treat my entire life in the way I turn up in the world, every engagement as an opportunity to be a tremendous artist, then is my life not going to be filled with a blazing fire of spirit? Everything is feeding me. Everything is feeding me. And I have to be present to consciously contribute.
And you're feeding it.
And collaborate with it. I'm allowing it to influence me, and it's and vice versa. We've got this dance going on. But because I'm here, I'm not missing the opportunity. Is it hard to turn up in that way? Shit, yes. But what the fuck else are we going to do with our time, right? But, we had a saying with alchemy, not here to fuck spiders, right? I really like that one. Because what I think a lot of people get themselves into trouble and just shooting always from this gun on the hip of opinionated opinions without knowing. You
Or
got to be
listening,
in it.
or caring to listen.
You got to be in
It's
it.
okay to have an opinion, but like, are you willing to be influenced back?
Yes.
Are you ready to hold their opinion just as well and go, oh, okay.
And I think that's the real difference between perception and perspective. Perception is the way you're seeing it, right? And that is an accumulation of past experiences that has brought you to that way of perceiving. But perspective is to see through the other's eyes. How can I be influenced by you? By allowing my perception to be neutralized and my perspective to shift and look through your eyes. To look through everything you've been through, everything that's behind the scenes, everything that's unspoken and spoken, and be able to read in between the lines. Also, that's an art, right? So every opportunity gifting us more maturity, we're able to grow in ourselves if we are willing to be courageous enough to step up and make life not about it being comfortable and easy, but challenging ourselves to be phenomenally beautiful artists in life. And we want this for our children, do we not? Yeah. We want this for the generations to come. We want to live by example and not repeat the folly of yesterday, right? Our downfall, our ignorance, which has got us into all kinds of fucking strife. This is how I feel, and I believe we can be influenced by the wisdom traditions of the world, the Indigenous ones that have held and kept and cared, have been caretakers for these precious gems. How we can appreciate it is by living as artists in our life. Then we have this mixing pot of wisdom from the east, wisdom from the west, wisdom from the north, wisdom from the south, all coming together, because none of them wanted division. They all wanted unity. Now is a time we bring it all in to unify, not an us and a you. It's a we are together. The way of the artist is that, where we bring it all together and we can unify all in difference. And I know it sounds like a pipe dream and so far away, but it's so much closer than we believe. So much closer than we believe. Just like that realization of, whoa, I can turn up in that way. And as you said at the beginning, that you can take responsibility for that. Only I'm the one who chose, right? Can't we choose the same thing? Can't I choose, and every man and every woman choose to turn up as an artist in their life and be more creative and be more there and present with the way their mind works, the thoughts they're choosing to think and to entertain, what they're doing with all of this, what they're doing with all of this and the quality of that, and what they're doing with this, their action. Can't we all do that every single day? Right? We have the opportunity. No one's withholding. We don't need to get something to do that. You're ready to go right now. You're well equipped. Every single human being in the entire world has everything they need to meet that. But we just have to choose it. It's only a choice away.
Something that is coming through as you're speaking is dadiri.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's listening. Like I can only speak from my experience, but the greatest art that we've ever created together, that I've ever created was, instead of having my agenda about what I wanted to create, I was listening, or I was feeling, or I was sensing. And something that I heard once, and I'd love to know, maybe it's different from mob to mob or people to people, that Aboriginal people don't have a word for, I think it's silence, that it's more, silence is more about your capacity to be able to hear as opposed to being quiet. Is that right?
Yeah, I'm unsure of that one. The language is so vast. But yeah, there's a lot of different I and please and thank you. Very little, if any, words in Aboriginal language around that, because first law of a lot of Aboriginal cultures is that connection to place. So where am I? What is my connection to this place? How can I look after this place so this place can look after me? And second law is how can I look after others? And when we've spoken a lot about belonging this afternoon, and what if we, I guess, with those two laws in mind, sort of change it up a bit? And I think it was Maslow's
Hierarchy and needs.
The belongings in there. But what if it is the humanistic nature of the individuals to be of service to everyone? So the second law, Aboriginal law, is how do I look after others? So just exactly what you're talking there is that, because I think for me, when I think about belonging, it's like, do I belong to this or do I belong to that? Do I want to belong to this? Then it, as you said, it then can put myself in a little block, in a little box. So I'm an artist and have to show up as an art worker, but the words that I speak, the documents that I write, what I create, how I show up, the body language, how I'm feeling, all of that is coming in. So it's not just one aspect of that. So what if we change it up and instead of I want to belong, but where do I belong and who should I belong to? More of how do I help? And if everyone's doing that, how can I be of service and help yourself when you're doing the same? So that we're looking after each other, as coming together as one. For me, because we talk about spirituality as well, almost every culture talks about spirituality. And we have our creation stories, and our human creation stories are Pikwi. And essentially it is, Pikwi is in the night sky, and when our physical journey finishes, our spiritual journey will meet with Pikwi. Then it'll be decided whether our spirit becomes part of the spirit world, part of the universe, or come back down and be reincarnated. And whether that be a human form or animal form, a seed or a single drop of rain, whatever the spirit needs to continue its learning. Because Aboriginal culture, everything has spirit. That's why there's a connection to everything. That's why we look at taking care of the land, because that spirit's in that land. My understanding is the spirit doesn't have location and time. So a rock has spirit. A rock is born. A rock gives birth. A rock dies. It's just a different time length. A moth may only live for 7 days, but it is born, it lives, gives birth and dies. So spiritual connection for me is right across. And when I'm learning more about other cultures, and I think I've mentioned this to you, is that that's what all cultures, essentially, if you come right down to it, is looking after land. So you can get those medicines, so you can get those knowledge, so you can get that connection with the land, the winds, the waters, the sky, the stars, and that connection with each other. in my uneducated mind, I believe it's somewhere in time, someone, I guess, changed that mindset and said, yeah, I want what you have, so I'm going to take what you have instead of sitting and being open to receiving and accepting that. But I want that, and that's, was that when power was created. So now I'm using physical force over you. So as you said, in your Irish culture, there was a culture before what we see in Ireland now. For me, I think we have a look at these European countries, England, Ireland, and see how it is now, and believe that's how it's always been, but it hasn't always been that way. There was the stories of the pixies and the fairies and the underground people, the night people. There were stories, and I guess today we consider them as fairy tales, but these were the ways of being, and the ways of being was connecting to earth and connecting. So I guess then that's where is that where the society and the humanality changed from I'm here to look after, and how can I look after land and everyone else, to I want that.
What can I get?
My way's better, so your way's wrong. And then that colonization right through back through those times. So for me, if that's the original stories right across, and when we look at spiritual stories and past lives, my bloodline and my physical connections is to the Aboriginal people, Yinwum and Anathanguyth people, and to English. Mum's white Australian with an English background, so that's my bloodline story. But what is my spiritual story? And when you get into those spirits, you just talk about those previous lives. Previous lives may have been a king in Europe. So for me, it is the spirit, our spirit, my spirit, our spirit, was there at the beginning. It lives through me now, and will be there once my physical body is gone, and had different lives. So for me, the spirit and our dreaming with Pickwe, what does that spirit need to continue its journey? I believe my spirit, which is connected to everyone and everything, needed to go through the journey of a Aboriginal boy with a white mum. Needed to go through all those experiences to where I am today, and then what are the learnings of tomorrow? I'm unsure, but it's what the spirit needs. So that connectiveness to everything, for me, has sort of been lost. And then how do we get back to that? Because we still have the perception of if I give,
I lose.
are you going to how are you going to use it? Are you donating money? So you donate money to someone who thinks in need. Well, what are they going to do with it? Well, that doesn't really worry me. I've got, so I'll give. And then what they do is their choices
And their karma.
but also, is it what their spirit needs
Yeah.
to continue that journey? So who am I to say that that's right or wrong?
So there's not a condition on it. There's just like, I have, so I will give.
I was going to say, it's a shift
really,
from
that's
conditional
huge.
to unconditional.
Yeah, it's like, I have, so I'll give, as opposed to having a list of prerequisites in order to be able to give.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Am I going to give to this organisation because they're a reputable organisation? When you look through their books and 1% gets to what they're talking about, do I give it to this person who is in need? But it's also then, if I am receiving, whether someone is giving for service or donating, if I'm receiving, what am I doing with that?
Yeah.
Am I accumulating for self, or am I accumulating so that in these days, this day we can get better equipment so that more people can hear my story, so I can give back more. Yeah. And how do we get there? Yes, we've all got that option to choose to do that. Um, but is it right for everyone right now?
Yeah.
Just like a different phase of myself that felt this was right for right now. Whether you're still in survival mode or whether you're starting to give, what are you doing in that situation?
There's endless directions of the conversation. Something that's coming up, like as we probably move towards the final part, not the end, but like moving towards that way, is repair. A lot of what, and this is something that I know that my ancestors, the people who were Indigenous to my people a long time ago, that reciprocity and right relationship were everything. And I've seen that across the board in a lot of the Indigenous cultures as well. And something here that, and I'm just going to look through the lens of those who are listening, from artists, healers, those interested in the industry of the healing arts, those on the receiving end of it, probably all human beings. But if we think about, if you're in that place and it is the time, from your perspective, because I think you're in a really unique position to see such a really clear black and white side to things. What is the first thing as an individual that we can do in order to begin relational repair? And I want to specifically say, with whatever land or country you're on, with the First Nations people there. The reason that I'm asking that is because I hold the perspective that it's one of the, we can talk about being in right relationship within ourselves, to the earth, to our ancestors, to the people around us. But if we just zoom out one and think, as collectives, particularly in the healing arts industry, what's a way that we may not have realised, those listening, I may not have realised I can do to begin repair with the Aboriginal or the First Nations or the Indigenous peoples of where I live, including if I am one. And I haven't, and I'm not in right relation. I have some friends who are Aboriginal and First Nation, and they're pushing it away as far as, like, they're in that bit, they're in that tackle in themselves. Over to you.
Yeah, really good question, and it would have really profound effects, but it's very, very quite difficult and complex. In that, so prior to colonisation, there was over 300 different Aboriginal nations in the continent of Australia.
Yeah.
Then all the Torres Strait Islands had their own ways of being, their laws, their languages, their ways of creation stories. A lot of similarities, but still different nations in their own right. So for me to speak on all those different nations is really don't really do. And then also through those nations, through the different families, through the different individuals, what can each individual do that's on this journey? Probably just find out whose country you're on.
Yeah.
To begin with, if you're born here, what country were you born to? And again, just hearing, thinking of the different perceptions, and not to say that I was born on Yinwum country, so I am Yinwum person, but knowing that you're born on Yinwum country or wherever you're born, so that there may be that spiritual connection with that. Sort of I mentioned that the spirit needed you to come back to be in this country, but so recognizing what country you're born on, and then maybe looking for some of those traditional owners and start having those yarns. And those yarns, for me, would be to go down and make introductions and sit and listen. What makes it difficult is that I can't speak for every nation. I can't speak for every individual. and again, their reaction is more a part of their story at the time. What I would encourage is that if it's something that you really want to learn, to lean into that uncomfortableness. Be courageous to lean in that uncomfortableness and not start to understand that reaction. Where's that reaction coming from?
As in if there's hostility.
Yep.
Yep.
And if there is hostility, there can be so many millions of different stories. It could be that I spoke to someone, they come and asked me this direct information, and they went and published it and didn't acknowledge, or I asked them to keep it a secret or keep it quiet. It could be that someone come in and wanted to have the yarn with me, but all they wanted to do was argue. They asked me a question about my Aboriginality, but just wanted to argue to prove their point. So where's that hostility coming from? So if we're coming from a place of open-heartedness and wanting to expand your knowledge, really creating those relationships with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, and that may take a long time.
Yeah.
So working in health, as an example, I would go out to different communities and talk about health. But I wasn't getting outcomes straight away. I remember working in one organisation and we had 5 or 6 different AMSs, Aboriginal Medical Services. And manager said, well, yeah, we've got to go out there and talk to this one about this contract and talk to that one about that contract. I said, yeah, that's not going to happen because I need to go out there and have a yarn with them.
Yeah.
I think when I rung all of them except for one, it was just blam. You do this and you do that, and yep. And
you were talking to an Aboriginal person?
Yeah. Yep. Majority. I think there's 1 or 2 CEOs that weren't Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander. But yeah, just getting that, so it was hostile, but knowing or having an understanding where that hostility had come from, because the organisation that I worked for which was a government-funded organisation, haven't necessarily done the right thing for our First Nations people organisations. So
that's a kind way to say it, Uncle Maurice.
Yes. So it was hostile, and it was aggressive, and for those that I worked with, very, very aggressive. But I understood that aggression. And then leaning into that and creating that continue that conversation is just, I understand, but I'm here now, so let's work together. As an example of if we get met with that hostility, it's not to say that you take it all the time. There are certain points of time where it was like, hey, hold on, okay, you need to stop. And it still happens now. Quite recently, we got our including our traditional owner groups, and come out and some answer like, this is what it's going to be. I understand that, I accept that, but this is the reason. This is the reason why we're doing this, and this is why we're going to go. The direction we're going. Please come along with us. Instead of shutting it out, no, you're yelling. You can't talk. You need to go out. Stay here. Yell at me, because we want to have that yarn. So creating that connection, and it because of the history of treatment of Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people here in Australia, and recent history. A lot of people think it happened over 200 years ago, but it's an ongoing history.
It hasn't ended. It's not really history.
No, well, it's a living history.
Yeah,
so it's ongoing history. So it's 1967 seems a long way away for a lot of young people. Before then, Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people weren't citizens of this country, so had no rights at all. We got aunts and uncles that lived through that. People that you work with may have lived through that. Then there's the stories that are told down through those generations that can still hold on to that anger. I went through a lot of that in younger years, and just so angry, so that the way that I reacted in those circumstances was a negative reaction. which was for me right at the time and justified because of what I was going through. But yeah, I had a couple of people sit down and have a yarn and wanted to know more, and you create that relationship. I wasn't at the right time back then. So yeah, finding out where, if you're born here, where I was born, if you're a more recent arrival, if you're born somewhere else and come here, where did you land? Where did you first make contact with the land here? Who are the people there? And have a yarn. Being very open to what the experience, even maybe get some education about the experience. A lot of people do cultural awareness and cultural capability training through my job, and some of the responses are, I didn't know that, we didn't know that. We're third generation here and we didn't know that. And for me, some people mention, I was ignorant to the fact. There's innocence and ignorance. If you weren't exposed to something, and this is all you were told, for me, that's the innocence. If then you were told something and from a different perspective, and you choose to ignore that, disagree with that, or just disregard that, that's where that ignorance comes in. So play on the language, which I always have that battle with. And then if you are going to get permission to share those stories, to share that knowledge, maybe even go back and have some conversation of, be open. I want to have a yarn with you so that I can include it in what I'm doing. And what I'm doing is this. And then if you do take that knowledge away, come back to that person and say, this is what I got from our yarns. This is how I've incorporated it. Is that the right way? Right story, wrong story. Book I just listen to the Audible book while I'm painting. So it's a way of relaxing and getting that knowledge. Talks about all those right story, wrong story. You can get that knowledge, but what do you do with it, and how you're doing that? And then for me, the only way that you're going to do that is creating those connections, having those yarns, and circling back.
Thank you.
And also giving back. I think that is a bit that I see missing in a lot of things, in that if I or if we are going to our Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people to get some information, and we're coming back and saying, is this the right thing? If we're getting something from that, so I create a book, a program, a way of being, a new modality, and I'm receiving money. That's the currency we use today. If I'm receiving, what am I giving back? And how am I giving back?
On that thread, I mentioned Dadiri, but we didn't mention who. I only know the story that it's from a teaching from a particular auntie. Do you know?
Can't think of the name.
For some reason, it's Rose that comes through. Rose, maybe.
Rosie, but I can't remember the
Rosie.
last name. Sorry, Aunt.
Sorry. Sorry. But we'll put it in the show notes. Could you please speak to what it is so that,
Yeah, and then when we talk about Dadiri, from Central Australia, Auntie Rosie Kunoth monks, I believe the name, and again, apology for Aunt if I mispronounce your name. But it's about deep listening. And deep listening, as we've mentioned through this yarn, can be sitting and hearing someone speak, and then how does that relate to me? What does that mean to me? And then speaking back, am I getting it right? Or in Aboriginal context, again, it's about sitting and being still and listening to the trees, listening to the animals, listening to the winds. So that really sitting in stillness and hearing those noises. And when you practice that, you start hearing those noises that are quite far away. You're thinking, is it that far away? Is it really close? So senses are really in tune. But essentially, it's that deep listening, and having that in everything you do, whether it's conversation, whether it is while you're doing the dishes, as you're saying, while you're making, writing lyrics, writing a document, because you're still listening and you're opening up to those connections, whether it be spiritual connections.
That was my next question. Is it primarily, I feel like a kindergarten student. That's where I'm at right now, right? So from what I've felt from when you've shared with me, and from what I've been able to put into practice, but also connect the dots on listening as such a strong, and not like ear listening, but like plugged in listening, is communication. It's like an ongoing conversation. Ancestors, future generations, spirit, land, elements. Is that the same within your people?
Yeah. So our stories are unchanged. When you have those different worldviews, our stories and the laws are unchanged. So it is that communication, not a written or recorded history. So you have to sit down and communicate. And just to add on to your point, the listening is not just the hearing, but it's what you feel when you hear that, or what you feel when you're sitting in that place, the energy that you get from the people, the places, the lands that's around. So that's all incorporated in that listening. So definitely that communication, and the communication through yarning is a lot different to that. Today's society is really time focused, and obviously we can, when we sit down together, we go to different ways and different threads, as you put it. But unfortunately today there's a time limit on that. So Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander ways is sitting down and having a yarn, and those yarns, we need to make a decision, but it might take 3 days, it might take 3 weeks to sit and to make that decision, because those decisions that we make traditionally as Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people is for the betterment of the land, connection to place, betterment of the people, my family, my community, those outside my community. So and then when you really think about that, there's really big decisions that need to be made. That can't be done in an hour meeting.
We can't rush these things.
We have this is
done.
Yeah.
Same as healing, right? I think that weaves a thread into the whole healing world. When we're like this appointment, an hour segment, cool, and I understand that, and there's a time and a place for that, but we should also, we know in our hearts healing takes as long as healing takes. I've offered energetic healing and sound healing and worked in the healing arts for many years. Sometimes I'd have people there for half a day, for like 4, 5, 6 hours.
What do you mean? For the first couple of years of sitting together, I would like 4 hours with Kurt, just asking questions.
Right? And it was, I never questioned it. I was like, that's what it is. This is what it is. And when I was originally starting out, it was like the exchange of like $50. For years I worked for that. And I would just, one client was the whole day. I wasn't there to make money. I wasn't there for myself. I was there because as an instrument, I could assist in cultivating the right environment for this individual to go through their healing process. I'm not looking at my clock. I'm here with you as long as I need to be. And this will take as long as it needs, right? And there's no rushing that. And because of that, I think life just continued to be like, good, you're in integrity with what you're offering. And we'll continue to offer more opportunity for you to essentially share your heart, right? It's like, well, there isn't a motive behind it. I'm not looking to gain. If I've got something of value I can gift another, I'm going to do that day in, day out, right? And I just have this deep intrinsic trust is something that we all develop, I feel, over time, is that it's going to be okay. I'll be provided for. How do I know how that's going to be? No, not at all. Still to this day, I don't know. But does that stop me in any way, shape or form from sharing my heart? No. I share and I share and I gift and I gift and I give of myself. I give all that I have to give because that's the thing that keeps me alive. That's the very thing that keeps us alive, you know, and I couldn't operate in it any other way.
I've been thinking probably for the last 3 years, but it comes back. It's like a little bug. Goes away and it comes, but it's always there. And recently I have been, I mean, sometimes Kurt and I ring each other and just say, how can we just live on the land and not have to have any, like, you know, this is our...
Give everything away.
Yeah, honestly. And I thought,
Yeah.
just imagine. And the feeling inside of me is like, okay. And I've put it to spirit and to the ancestors. I hope you're working. Thank you. And I mean, bigger plan of like the question is, I wonder how different it would be. I wonder how differently we would teach, give, facilitate, hold, create if money wasn't involved. And I'm like, I wish, because we could listen and go at the pace that we needed. Because whenever I think about it and I think of how much privilege as a white-bodied woman in Australia I have, and I feel under pressure sometimes. And so even, you know, I'm not Indigenous, I'm not brown, black, red, I don't have any, you know, so my privileges are maximized, absolutely maximized. Even though for a long time I didn't think I had any privilege because I grew up with violence, drugs, alcohol. And I just thought, what do you mean fucking privilege? I earned everything I had. And then realized, oh, cultural privilege. Fucking different story that we need to come back around to. But, and I think, and so I feel pressured sometimes. And I feel really grateful to have had, you know, my partner recently. And I said, I need a break. Like, I've become a mother. Like, what can we give up? What can we do without so that I can pause and integrate the first couple of years of motherhood because I need a minute. I just need a minute. That is a huge privilege. Huge, phenomenally huge privilege. And I know that, you know, to keep my boy close, I know the privilege that is. And I just wonder if we didn't have to earn money and how many people get into the industry of the healing arts and then the pressure of who to be, the brand, and the pressure of money behind that. Of course you're going to fucking serve out of integrity. You're going to go too fast, too soon, with too much wisdom that's not given permission with. And I don't know the answer to that yet, but I'm hearing from my ancestors that it's give back, reconnect with the earth, listen, and we'll find it there. That's the message I'm getting over and over and over and over again, because I honestly, even now, I'd go a lot slower. But it's like, I want to go slower on the road, but the person behind me is going to beep at me. You know, that. So when I say slower, I mean in general. I just, when I'm walking through the mall, so it's just a question to hang in the air. And I really don't think that a lot of people should, if they can have the choice, leave a day job to become a healer and that becomes their sole income. I don't think it's a good idea. Not all of the time. I think there's going to be circumstances. If they can hold integrity. Like, that's the question. Like, can you hold that integrity? Can you? Because you did that. And I know, and I did that. But
I gave up a business to be a healer, no nothing.
I gave up a medical degree.
Business.
Yeah, right? We gave up lots.
There's also an element of, you know, talking on that spirit, right? There was a spirit in me, just as there is in so many others, that it almost doesn't give you the option. It's like, this is what you need to do.
But I'm talking, it's dependent on, like, you lock yourself into that financial dependence on it. It's just be mindful. Man, the best fucking healers I know are like garbage truck people. You know, they're not, it's not their, that's not 100% true. But it's just like something that I want to put on the table, because I know we actually did do that.
But I see it more now because there's so many more trainings and so many in the last 5 years. It's become, I think, a big influence to be able to take people out of integrity easy, like be an influence. What are your thoughts, Uncle?
Yeah, I think, and it's I guess it's society and times we work in.
We're like
that,
brothers and sisters who fight. Sorry.
Yeah, that time in society that we work in where it's a monetary system. You go back and it's you do that healing and I bring some food.
Trade.
Yeah.
Yeah, so back to that trade, but the trade at the moment is just we got a family to feed. So the trade is for right now is money that will then support support feed the family for the week. It's for me. It's then about after you've taken care of, and you've got
What do you
more
got
to
left
give.
over?
Yeah, what are you doing that? Where are you going to give that? I think that integrity thing piece is really up to the individual.
Yeah.
And if they're consistently working in that healing space and fully booked out every hour, every day, of every week, how is it different to working for someone else? Or owning a clothing company or a car manufacturing place? What value are you being able to do that? Because to be able for me to be able to do really great healing, you need to be centered yourself.
Yeah. And if you're malnourished, yeah. And that's like Auntie Chalita, who sat here a couple of weeks ago. She did an Indigenous healing workshop, and she shared some of the Maori ways, and they get 3 yeses. I'm just like, do I have permission to say this? I'm pretty sure I do. Yeah, because do I? Yeah. So you go spirit, your ancestors, and yourself. So 3 yeses. And she said, because if you don't get spirit's yes, but you get a yes, guess whose energy you have to use. Like, whereas if spirit gives you a yes and your ancestors give you a yes, you got infinite coming in. Whereas you'll burn out if you just do this. And this is the thing that I'm saying of integrity and time and place. And so many people are in survival financially. And so if they depend on it, I'm just like, for me, it's just a bit of a flag to be like, just be mindful if you're moving into this industry of that pressure. And even if you're a person who is a good person, if you got to feed your children, you're probably going to take that extra client when you're tired. So this is what I'm.
Yeah. And for me, it's also about why you want to do it. So you've obviously learnt a modality or practiced modality or learnt numerous, and you wanted to share that. What was I going to? So it's what did you want to do with that in the first instance? Is it yes, I see this as a big niche and we want to go this way, and to make that money or to share the word, and then where do you put that? I do a painting and someone says, how much is that? It's like, I don't know. I want to ask you how much you want to pay for it. Because it's just something that I do, that I love doing. I've tried so many different ways of pricing. Well, I'll do this, it's this size by this size and we'll do it by that, or next time I start a painting I'll time and then put a hourly rate to it, and then I never do that. So it's because I definitely can't do the time thing, because it's I start because it's not a business and it's something that I'm doing as I enjoy. I start when I want and I finish when I want, or my wife tells me to. So it's not start at 9, finish at 5. So what is your purpose in doing that? And like I said, I think it's just an individual. Can you sit with yourself in integrity and say that we're doing the right thing? And those 3 yeses, love that one. Does that come in? And like I said, if it's the spirit needs this vessel for future learnings, and the spirit may need this. The last couple of lives were of poverty, and they need to accumulate that wealth to know what it's like to continue that. So it's really difficult ones, but for me it's more about, can you sit and I talk to a lot of staff and friends when they reach out for support. Can you sit, look yourself in the mirror and sit in integrity and say, yes, I've done the right thing. Because if you can truly do that, like wholly, truly do that, and that's about sitting in the silence. So you got to do all those practices rather than saying, yeah, that's right. So if you can really, truly do that and still feel right in what you're doing, it's for me, it's your spirit's need to do that. And yeah. And yeah, it's like, who am I to say that you're right or wrong? You're giving it away for free, or you're putting a 10,000 price tag.
Going back to your sovereignty, which is what we teach in iSōma, which is what we've taught for a long time, is that piece. I think like a really good piece to wrap up on is when you can sit in that deep listening, when you can pause, when you can come back here, connect in, and ask that question with true honesty. And if it's yes, you're good. You do not need anyone else's permission. I have had that conflict and walked with that conflict most of my life, being, what some might term like a channel, an instrument for greater spiritual energies, ancestral energies. I sing sometimes like a 100-year-old Indian man, sometimes like a very old grandmother, Indigenous grandmother to this land.
Can verify.
It's just there. And my connection with that is so alive. I don't need permission from anyone to share in that way, because I have all the permission in the world. And it comes from this place, and it comes from a place of sharing the deepest depths of my love and my awareness and my soul's journey, my spirit journey. And I'm singing that into this space. I'm sharing that, whether that sometimes is through words too. Sometimes I don't sound like Kurt this body, but I speak of things that are far beyond my years and have done most of my life and struggled to understand it. But I realized rather quickly that my desire to almost be like, is this okay from others, was there in my youngness. But as I matured in myself, I was like, it's not about that. This is here. This is alive. This is me in full integrity and full honesty with the energy that's moving through me in this moment. I have every right in the world to give this to the world. And nothing or no one will ever stand in my way of doing that. And that's that, to be honest and raw, that had been a really big conflict in me, because I was like, who am I, this white privileged man, to be singing these ancestral songs? Were they gifted to me? No, they just came. They just there. My memory extends beyond this body, this mind, this vehicle, and can retrieve and can listen to the song lines on this land, that can listen to the dragon lines in the east, that can listen to the songs and the chants of the ancient Egyptian times and far beyond. Like, it's alive in the living fields that is our unified awareness. Not only just this planet, but this great celestial body and all of the singing spheres. Like, it was a really big one for me to realize I didn't need permission, because all my permission was here. It felt, as you said, it felt right. When I was sitting with that in full honesty, it was aligned and couldn't be more aligned. So this is it. And this is what I give, and this is what I stand for and with. and I honor that in others, because it takes a lot of courage to stop looking outside of yourself to be verified, and for permission to give something that is innately designed into you, and you have the ability to listen to, hear, and express with impeccability. Impeccability has always been a part of my art. How can I give this and share this with all of me, without withholding, without denying, without extending outside of myself to get something? It was always here, and this is my place of belonging. I found the belonging that we have often go on our own journeys in the world looking for, I found here. I didn't need to belong to a people. I didn't need to belong to a land. I'd been here many times before, and I've belonged many places. And here within myself, I remember that belonging. So I didn't need anything else to verify my place. And this was just me speaking for me. I found it in that silence, in that place of me turning my vision from outer to inner. I realized I always belonged. So I didn't need to find anything to verify outside of me. So wherever I am, I belong. With whomever I am with, I belong. Whether it's on this world or another world, I belong here. With that spirit, with that energy, with that life, I belong.
It's beautiful.
And I just want to say, like, deep bow to you, brother, because there were, like, we've sat beside each other for, decade and a half. And I remember thinking, can you do that? Like, are we allowed to do, because a lot of it was we. And I'm like, I don't know if we can do this, because I didn't have we're always beside each other. Well, a lot of the time we're beside each other. You kind of got one with the other in this space these days. And you taught me so much, and I'm so incredibly grateful for you living that, because like I always do, push back on something if I'm not sure, and like we always do, we just meet each other in it, and you're just like, yeah, because this, and it was such an honor to witness over the years of, to be on the receiving end of those song lines that would come through, to the point over the years where I know the different characters and have like nicknames for them that have come through. I'm like, oh, did Rafiki come through, or did this, as we're reflecting and debriefing. And to be, and the influence and impact you've had on me because of your ownership and because of your trust and because of your deciding within yourself and having the courage to do that, you've deeply influenced me and supported me, and I'm so grateful. Thank you. Sorry for pushing back all the time.
Are you really?
Yeah.
Sorry, I was being polite.
Definitely, and the perception, like for myself, when I said learning those songs and dances, but it wasn't from my country. So the perception that I had was I can only do these sort of things and feel what I feel now if I'm in my country. If I'm not in my country, do I have the right to feel centered? Do I have the right to feel connected? So yeah, I can definitely understand your what you're saying there, and thank you for that, because it's given me a bit more permission to follow that journey, because it's the journey inside that then allows to be my full self to give to others. And I guess that if it goes back to that question or comment around the healers, should you be doing this? Should you be? Sorry, like I said, there's no answer. But yeah, just some advice is that, have you learnt? How did you learn? Have you practiced? Have you embodied? And then, do you feel right?
Truly.
When you are doing.
And it's a tricky one, because we can really lie to ourselves. And I'm going to do a time check and say that we have to close. But we have to come back for part 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah. Let's do it.
Because even the piece on embodiment, you know, it takes multiple sheddings and processes and cycles of going through and dying and rebirth, and to really embody. It's an arduous, harrowing process. Embodiment. It's not like I'm embodied now. It takes time and slowness and patience and humility. None of which, well, all of which we are practicing more of. Well, I can personally speak for myself. Continue to practice and need to practice more of.
And you'll create those people. You'll attract those people. And one other thing that come up was, you know, if you got students, what are they getting from what you're teaching? Are you comfortable in that as well?
Yeah.
So, you know, a bit of self-reflection and just being leaning into that vulnerability to say that, yes, this is what I've been doing and this is the journey that I've been on. I've still got a long way to go, but I don't want you to take 30 years to get to where I am. I want you to get there 20 years so that when you get to 46, you know, you're further along the path than I am.
Totally. Brother, any closing words?
Yeah, I think that probably, that vulnerability to put yourself out there, to be confident in yourself, to be able to check in with yourself. Is this the right thing to do? And I don't think there's any one answer. And I think for me, if someone says yes, you do it this way, and then you will get the outcome that you want, I'll probably move away from that, because if there's a one answer to everything that we're seeing, the spirit, the bloodline connections is all part of that journey, all part of that learning, and line connections is all part of that journey, all part of that learning, the healing is a process, not a 6-minute appointment. But yeah, really appreciate everything you do. I think meeting the both of you was the best thing that had happened for myself and for my journey. It gave me the permission to do that over those 3 days up on Sunshine Coast. It gave me the permission to do those sort of things, and then also opened up the connection through my bloodline connections as well. This is what I need to do and need to be, and how I need to feel. Again, I'm not there. Still got a long way to go, and a bit more discipline. And what I thought about earlier is we talk about these practices, but with Aboriginal culture and all First Peoples culture right across the world, as we talk about coming back, it's just a way of being. Sometimes when we think, I've got to do these practices and I've got to do it this way, but it's a being and a feeling that I need to have that focus on for myself.
Me too. Thank you, my brother. Gosh, I love you so much. I'm so grateful.
Thank you.
And thank you for coming on as a teacher with us, for a guest teacher this year.
Exciting.
Honoured.
Thank you.
We thank you for listening. Thank you for gifting your presence and your time and absorbing everything that's been put on the table here. We invite you to leave a review on whatever platform that will really pay forward this to those that need to find and to hear what's being said.
Yeah. If you got something from this, if you received something, then we would love it. Would deeply, deeply benefit us if you were able to let others know. Pass it on, pay it forward. Thank you so much for your time, and we look forward to bringing you the next episode.